Hello, audience at home. We are going to be reviewing Final Fantasy 15 again, plus DLCs, Gladio, Ignis, Prompto, Ardyn. I got my notes. I'm ready to do this thing. We got our microphones. We're ready to record. How are we looking on the stream, Schweiss?
Looks good.
Looks good? Good.
Yeah.
Let's, I'm going to fuck with the window here just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Get our third host in.
I'm getting my chat up. I don't know if you guys can see that. I think I might have. Whatever. Okay. How does it look? Does it look okay right now? Things are squished to the side, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew it.
Oh man, now it looks really sweet.
The never-ending cascade.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. It should be fine now. All right. Press record, Schweiss. I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, and then we're both going to clap at the same time. Okay?
Okay, so record and then clap?
Record. I will count down 3, 2, 1, and then you will clap. And then we will both clap, okay?
All right.
And we have to do it at the same time.
All right.
Motherfucker.
Are we clapping on go or are we clapping on 1?
It'll be 1, 2, 3.
Okay. All right.
Okay? All right. Press record now. All right. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the ultimate in hiatal Final Fantasy podcast. I am your host, Caleb Schweiss.
That's disgusting. I am Joseph DeCollier. I don't know what a hiatal is, but
yeah,
I'll show you. No part of it.
I'll show you when you're back in town. Don't worry.
Now, for the audience at home, my quick apologies here. I haven't played this thing in like a month and a half, and so I am relying basically upon my notes and what little I remember of what I played before, as we do this review here. But yes, today we are reviewing Final Fantasy 15 New Game Plus with all the updates, in addition to all the major DLCs, episode Prompto, episode Ignis, episode Gladiolus, and episode Ardyn. Which, I mean, first off, can we talk about the installation process and how fucking confusing that was? Can we just start with that?
Go for it. That was a you thing. So.
Oh, that was it was a me thing because I don't ever buy DLC. So the entire process was like a mystery to me as far as like how the fuck this works. But there is a Royal Edition update, and I thought it was supposed to have everything, but it didn't. And in fact, it had almost nothing on it. And then I had to get all like the DLCs through the season pass, which is separate from, because I thought like the newest version of the game, like the thing that you would buy on the DLC, like that would be, all the shit put together, whatever $20 purchase that was. But it wasn't. It was, I don't know, it was like game improvements and other cutscenes. I have no idea what was on that Royal Edition upgrade. No idea what it actually was. You have to buy the season pass in addition to that to get the DLCs that we needed to play for the show, and then also purchase Ardyn separate from that. That was a 3-day affair figuring all that shit out. I fucking hate myself. I hate the money I wasted. And, well, we can talk about the DLCs separate from that, but there is definitely at least one Final Fantasy 15 upgrade purchase that I didn't need to do for the show.
Oh, shit. You know what? It was really easy for me because I remember back in the day, we did a giveaway for the episodes. I think it was just the DLC pack. and it was whoever guessed the closest rankings for each of us, and I think someone got it almost right. Like one of ours was one off of what our Final Fantasy rankings were after 15. So I had the DLC way back when, and I used the code, and I never really downloaded it though because I knew I wasn't going to be playing it anytime soon, or possibly at all. I mean, we didn't really plan to do this
No, we
until
didn't.
very recently.
We decided to be the ultimate Final Fantasy podcast.
Yeah,
Instead of
yeah.
like
So
some little fucking poser podcast out there. They're all popping up out of nowhere right now.
yeah, is there an influx in Final Fantasy pods?
Oh, there's always an influx of Final Fantasy pods. They usually don't last very long, to be fair. Like, we've been at this for 6 years. There's only one other podcast that's been around longer than us.
Yeah,
We've seen them come and go. And they were coming and going before we started, too. There was a lot of little,
yeah.
like, I can't
Like
even
that
remember the names.
Fiericide chats and all those other ones. Yeah.
Yeah,
That would
yeah.
always dog us and be ahead of us. And you're like, man, fuck you, man. Why are you there? They don't even have Final Fantasy in the name.
iTunes' rankings were fucking rigged against us back then.
Yeah, it's those British bastards paying iTunes off and slipping them part of their revenue for their bullshit YouTube page.
See, I can understand us not being there now, which we probably aren't. I don't even look at iTunes anymore. But but back then, when there were only like 4 podcasts actually going, I mean, come on, what the fuck? Whatever, iTunes, whatever.
Fucking lies.
Let's not bury ourselves in the past. Okay, let's move forward. Let's move forward.
with a 4-year-old game.
Replaying a game we already fucking beat for the show.
We've never done this before either, by the way. This is the first time ever.
My God.
And
go ahead.
It's weird to even consider, you know what I mean? Because we've considered doing things out of order, and we've done things out of order in the past, but to fully replay a game just seems wrong. But then you look at what 15 is, and it kind of makes sense.
I guess we will get into that. But also, after we were done playing 15, I made the mistake one night, because I'm working 7 days a week right now. I'm actually working 7 days a week, ladies and gentlemen. Trying to pay off some debts, getting all brand new debts. In addition to that, I'll leave that story for another day. But I was at work, and sometimes at work I write, because I got like a nothing job so that I could write at the same time, at least for the four out of the 7 days a week. And I should not have done it, but I put on the Final Fantasy VI soundtrack, and I immediately wanted to replay all the fucking main games.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, right after, because it was somewhere between now and when I actually finished the shit and was waiting on you. That happened, and I was like, oh god damn it, I want to play them all again. I want to play them all. Mistake. Don't do that. Don't listen to a great old Final Fantasy soundtrack, Schweiss. It's a bad idea. You'll immediately go like, it's time. Start with FF1 right now. And then then the other part of me finally won over, like the next day after I like had a good nap, you know. You never send the angry note when you write it, you know, you wait, you sleep on it, see if you can send it then. It was kind of like that. I woke up and I realized, it was like, no, wait, there's so many Kingdom Hearts games. there's Mana games. And we just can't do that yet. But yeah, some reminiscences did happen, and this is the first time we are replaying a main series, any Final Fantasy game. Especially it being a main series is a big deal. Of course, like you were saying, it does have to do with the nature of 15 itself and what it is now versus what it was then. Do you want to go through the DLCs first, or do you want to talk about our thoughts about the whole thing?
Honestly, I don't know. I kind of just want to go through the story again, and then we can dive into the DLC stuff.
Okay.
Which isn't how we played it. We played it with the DLC as they popped up in the story.
Yes.
But yeah. I didn't really start taking notes for a long time as I was replaying this, because I was just trying to take it all in. Uh, I think I was right about a lot of things when I reviewed Final Fantasy 15, and I think I was wrong about a couple things. So I do think the story is still disjointed in many ways. And a lot of the major complaints that we had the first time around are still alive, and in the case of the X button, very well. Uh, but the story complaints that we had early on, like with the whole disconnect between the movie and the game, they, I mean, they melded them together, but they somehow didn't fix any of the problems. All
Oh
they did was
God.
added scenes
All right.
from the movie
Now
into the fucking game.
I get why you want to go in order now.
Yeah.
'Cause- oh my God. So the first thing that this game does to fuck, because I liked 15 a lot. I put it number 5 in all the games. I really think like there are some areas where the game does not do well, but I think the highs are really high with Final Fantasy 15. And I still generally think that way. But let's call the version of 15 we played 1.0.
Okay.
Okay, that's the real Final Fantasy 15. That was the game as it came out by itself. That's what we got. This version of 15 is like tied into DLC. And then there, of course, were all those updates where they tried to quote unquote fix things. And as a person who played the original game and enjoyed it, by the way, didn't think there was. We obviously talked about it for 6 hours before. There were obviously some scenes that I had issues with, and you definitely had issues with. But overall, like, I thought that the story worked. Mostly. There were like 3 scenes. I was like, we could use these 3 scenes. Of course, those 3 scenes being like better setup with Luna, Freya, and Noctis. That was one of them that we talked about in the original review. And, more of the World of Darkness near the end of the game. There needed to be more of a scene of all the boys coming together and like realizing how many years have just fucking passed. And of course, and then there was there needed to be some more clarity when it came to Ravis. Okay. It gave me one of those 3 things.
Yeah.
And did it not deliver? Okay. The one thing that it gave us out of the 3 of my biggest complaints in the original review of this game was that it told us what the fuck was up with Ravis. That's it. And honestly, I could have just lived with the mystery of it because of what the fuck they did in these updates.
Yeah.
So you start the game and they just start shoving in Kingsglaive flashbacks in every 5 fucking minutes.
You're like, I know what this game needs. Kingsglaive. You're like, oh no,
No,
it doesn't. No, that's the thing it doesn't need. And it's not like they made it more incongruous with the movie. They just shoved scenes straight from the movie. Like they didn't add the fact that, oh hey, maybe Gladiolus and his fucking sister should be upset that their dad died because the movie's the only thing that actually showed us that. No. They just gave us scenes from the movie. Big fights, big robot kaiju fights from the movie.
The things they added were not the things that needed to be added. They just were like, oh, people have problems with this. We'll show up on this scene. How about this scene? And then, oh, by the way, I wonder as a first-time player if you could tell how much worse the writing is in those scenes. So the first thing we get after one of the horrible Kingsglaive flashbacks is like a setup with Ravis being sent by the other emperor. You know that guy? And it's the most on the nose, terrible, bad guy dialogue. And then it just stops dead in the middle of the game to go from there. So I put on here, the Ravis setup scene is horribly written and performed and still wouldn't make sense unless you played the DLC.
Yeah.
That's what it would take.
So it's like, there's no need to even have it. They did the same thing again. They expected you to have watched the movie. They expect you to have played the DLC. But if this is your first time playing it, it's like it's the
DLC's in the menu. It's not in the fucking game.
It's the Kate Sith in 7 remake. You're like, what's the fucking cat? Like,
why is there a cat in this cutscene?
Yeah, like it's a robo cat. What is this? Yeah, it's fucking. It doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. I don't know why they. It's like they. It's like someone listened to our review of the game, and then they jotted down a note. Make Kingslave work a little better, and then they did all the wrong things to make that actually happen. Because when we say make it work a little better with the movie, it's more like, hey, make sure the team that did the movie and the team that did the game actually talk to each other. Maybe we can have some emotion from Gladiolus and his very emotional sister about their dad dying in the line of duty, or like even a mention of it, and they don't mention it at all. I mean, even in this version of it, there's a scene where they mention like in Gladiolus's DLC, like he would have been proud of you, but there's no emotion. There's no like future reference to that. It's just
I do think there's about 10% more Jared.
oh, there is. And I wrote down here, one of my notes here is Jared is so forgettable that everyone remembers him. It's the weirdest fucking thing in the world. Like I
Jared
can't
was
not
like a
think
footnote
about.
in the first one. It's still a footnote.
Yeah.
It's a footnote plus in this version.
I know, God, and dude, I
I'm
was
so sorry about Jared.
yeah,
That
I
character
took
we all grew to love.
yeah, and his little shit grandson, Talcott, catch us up
Powder.
on 10 years, powder. Yeah. Dude, oh man, and I was gonna finish this game, and my whole goal was to have a really sweet photo of the fat guy from Lost, the photographer guy, and I took it. But I think when I was like save scumming to do the optional stuff or the trophies, I must have like overwritten the wrong file, because in the end I didn't have the photo of the guy from fucking Lost, and it was a good one. I was like right up on him. He's like fanning his fat face, sweating in this hot sun. And I was going to do like, I was the talk of the town, Luna, thanks to those photos. But instead, I was like, shit, what am I going to do as a replacement photo? And then I got a great one of like Talcott and Jared. And I'm like, oh, no fucking way. Who took this photo? I stopped. Why would you take a photo of that fucking guy? But god damn it, yeah. Yeah, so that was the final photo I brought in. And then I was like, Luna, I was voiceovering Luna in the final thing, and I was like, oh, Noctis, who's that? He's like, oh, it's Jared, the main character, and his grandson.
This is so inside baseball. If you've never played 15 before, or even if you have, you may not know who the fuck we're talking about.
Yeah, it might not bother you to the same level that it bothers us.
Another thing, okay, so they added those scenes at the beginning to clear up the Ravis shit, but only if you played the DLC, because more Ravis shit is explained in the DLC.
Yeah.
And then, I'm only looking at the bad. Oh, I just realized I'm only looking at the bad column right now, so I'm ready to just complain. The other huge problem. So, in Chapter 12, so after Chapter 8 of the game, it kind of goes into its linear path. It's literally a train ride in it. It's just like, it's going straight there, and I think that's when the game narratively picks up like crazy, because the beginning of the game is kind of clunky, but after Luna Freya dies, spoilers, this is all spoilers, and after the Leviathan fight, then everything just kind of goes full speed ahead, and I'm in love with the game at that point. And it was the same this time around too. It's like, okay, now the game's like getting going, and this stuff's really good. One of those scenes, probably the best scene besides the ending of the game, probably the best scene in the game, is the train scene with Gantiana and Ardyn. Now, doing a replay of this, there are now some new little options that pop up in Chapter 12. In the middle of that scene, in the fucking middle of that scene, that lets Gantiana explain to Noctis what the fuck is happening right now. Which,
yeah, she gives a Q&A session in the middle of this fucking
oh my god,
train ride.
Oh my god, this was the thing that pissed me off the most when I played this thing. And I messaged other listeners, I messaged you, I was like screaming at the fucking game for what the fuck they did to Chapter 12. That was before I went through the ending. But at this point, this was the most mad I was at this fucking thing. Gentiana scene is ruined. Capital, all caps. Ruined by a sudden wave of exposition that could have been added in chapter 14. Not only is it just a sudden wave of exposition, but the soundtrack changes, the mood of the whole cutscene changes. What the fuck is this? And of course you're gonna click on it if it's the first time you played this game. Of course you're gonna click on it and just have it ruined. Just have the mood of that fucking scene ruined completely by the shit they shoved into this thing, because I guess we couldn't all figure out like the deep parts of the story through our multiple new game pluses. We couldn't like have it be this neat little puzzle of like, what's really the truth with Ardyn. Remember that was like all the Final Fantasy Peasants YouTube pages built upon that shit. Like,
yeah.
What's actually, and you know what? Everything that the fans said is exactly what happened in this game.
It is, yeah. We all kind of knew what it was. You know, we knew that he was some kind of, he got fucked over by the line of Lucius and he wanted his revenge.
Stop the line.
It's
the fucking with the Star Scourge.
It's the Han Solo thing. They just can't leave it alone. They're like, ooh, Han Solo is this cool, mysterious, like, badass. Let's make a movie explaining everything about him that's cool and mysterious. It's like, no, don't do that. That ruins it. That's what all of these fucking DLCs really are, honestly. They're all just ruinations of mysterious characters and their mysterious pasts.
This isn't DLC. This is now the game. If you
now
buy
it's the game
15 new, it's now the game. This is the game now. This fucking shoved in exposition in chapter 12 could have been added any other part after that scene. Any other part. It could have been added when the fucking big Bahamut guy is looking at you and you're in like the crystal world and you're just like talking to the guy. You could have added that there.
Yeah.
It kind of was already there, but I guess you could have made it. You could have underlined it more, which is what that scene is. It's an underlining of like what, you know, like all the, you know, steps that Ardyn actually took on his way to doing this thing. You know, it spells it out very clearly. Yes. And they shove it right in the middle of that thing. That is absolutely the worst thing they did. But then one of the most confusing things they did was they cut, I swear to God, I asked you if they kept this fucking scene in there. I remember this fucking scene existing in the original game, and I did not see it this time around. I did not see it, unless it was extra stuff, which I don't think it was.
No.
Isn't there a scene in the original game where Luna Freya is healing people of the Star Scourge, and it's gone now?
It's like, it was like really short from what I remember. Just this little scene of her like healing somebody.
It was.
Yeah, and it's gone.
And it's gone. And that's one of those things that kind of explains Ardyn's past. And
yeah, it also explains the purpose of Luna Freya. If she's the one that's supposed to help cure the Star Scourge, and then when she dies, and that's when it really starts picking up and it starts really taking over because she's not there anymore. But they don't really explain what her purpose is at all, other than, you know, to guide Noctis. Yeah.
And here's the dog.
Also, let's talk about, like, man, don't look at the dress before the wedding. I didn't realize the curse was this strong. Like, holy shit. That's like one of those things you're not supposed to like see your wife's dress before you get married, but man, in this one she just fucking dies because of it. So word to the wise, don't fucking look, man.
That's a good point.
It's like Pandora's box.
Yeah, and then the last bad I had listed on here as far as the main game is concerned. No, that was it. That was it as far as like the big bads. Those were the things that stuck out to me, and they honestly did not. The things that they added did not improve the beginning section of the game, which is where most of the improvement needed to be. And they, of course, didn't really improve the World of Darkness, but you got more into the extra stuff there, so you might have more of an opinion about that stuff. But as far as like the main story thing, they didn't do jack in the areas that needed it.
Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, the only thing we got extra was we saw Ravus die in the stupidest way possible. They cut off his fake arm, and that's what and then he died. Like that was the final move. It's like, oh, you got that fake arm? Well, not anymore. Of course, after he falls off the like fucking high ass area and breaks all of his bones, most likely. But that's how Ardyn finished him off. Was just like cutting off his fake arm, and then it was holding his sword. And I'm like, wow, thanks.
Hey, that's
Ouch.
DLC. Hey, that's DLC.
Yeah.
The problem is with playing it like this is that you could mix up the DLC with like the regular game, but yeah, we just see Ravis's arm in the original game, and it's still like that. Yeah. They were obviously setting it up for DLC before.
I feel like in this version they did add in that scene though. I don't know where in the DLC they would have added it because it wasn't in.
Ardyn kicks around. I have it in my shit. I have a.
I think that was. I feel like that was in the game because I don't know what episode that would be in. The only one we got a lot of Ravis in
episode Ignis.
Is it in Ignis?
Fight Ravis, gets ton of exposition. Ardyn comes along in disguise. Ravis protects him. Iggy, Super Saiyan mode. That's my notes.
Oh no, that's different. That's before.
Oh well,
it might have. You know what? It might have been. Things. It might have been in Prompto because I don't fucking know. It's all just shitty. It's annoying.
How dare you? How dare you be so negative right now, Schweiss?
I mean, it's not all just shitty, but
I do have lists of good on thoughts on 15. I mean, I have my overall I want to end with, thoughts. But the good things that I thought that they added in this version of the game, things that I thought improved the game from the original in the areas in which they were improving them. The first being the Cerberus fight, I thought was a great addition to the fucking game. It's a great fight. It ties in really well with one of the DLCs. Of course, it probably makes no sense if you didn't play the DLC, but the fight itself is a lot of fun, and that's a really good addition. They did expand the Luna Freya a little bit, except that they took one of her only scenes away from the original game. But they expanded that love story. I think they added one or two extra little like back and forth scenes, which I thought strengthened that just a little bit, but it still wasn't quite enough to do what I needed it to do as far as that is concerned. The divine intervention section of chapter 14 was really cool. That's kind of tying into DLC again. Added info from Talcott, I believe, on the car ride. I believe we got some more stuff there. So that was nice. And in a good spot, too. In a good spot to add exposition in. Not in the middle of one of the best cutscenes in the fucking game, but in like a good like little like lull before the final battles. You have some time to learn about what was happening in the world, which of course was one of those things kind of missing from the original game. It felt that was the spot in the game where I could agree with other people where it felt like it wasn't finished in the original version. Increased story clarity with a big but there, and I liked the way the DLC was tied in. So those are my like good additions to the main core story of 15, although a lot of that is dependent on DLC content.
Yeah. I liked the story. Okay, so I like the baseline story. It really is just the Lion King, honestly. It's like I was noticing that and I was like, you know what, I really like a lot of this. There's just a lot of shit in there that kind of muddies the waters, and I tend to agree with the additions of all the Kingslave stuff and
shoved in.
It's almost that they worsened the parts that were okay, and they left the parts that were not great. There were some dialogue changes. I liked most of those for the most part. I thought it was weird that we saw Old Man Core. We had like that little base in the right next to the city, or like within the city, right next to the Capitol building, where like Core was hanging out with a bunch of the other hunters, and he's like this old grizzled bastard. I thought that was kind of cool.
That was in
It
the
was
ending
weird.
section, right, with all the hunter
Yeah.
people. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't remember this shit at all, and it's because it wasn't there before.
No, it wasn't. They didn't have anything. It was literally like drive into town and go kill Ardyn. That was it.
Yeah.
And that part was
Um,
maybe an hour long, and they made it like 5 hours long in the
yeah.
new version.
I thought it was really I don't know. There's a lot in this game that's really good. And the callbacks at the very end are excellent. We're talking like it's he's like I don't know, he's like the Lion King meets Jesus basically, because he's got to make the ultimate sacrifice, and his dad knows that he's going to have to sacrifice his son basically. And I like the callback at the very end of the game where tells his buddies to walk tall. I thought that was really really good. As like a callback to his dad telling him that, and his dad knows that his son's going to go out and die, basically to save everybody. So there's a lot of stuff in this game that I really like. Um, but I don't know. There's just a bunch of little things around it that I think are poorly done, and I think it's honestly a combination of trying to make it overly simple, because I think the core story is pretty simple, but they try to add all the fixins, all the dressing to it, and I don't like that stuff because that stuff gets convoluted and they fuck it up and things like that. I don't know though. I really liked the Cerberus fight. I thought that stuff was really cool.
Yeah, and that's
A
the
lot of the
Cerberus fight is set up in the episode Ardyn DLC, which I told you to
yeah
play before you got to that scene, and you didn't.
yeah, but I mean I understood. I mean I don't know. I don't know if I could have ever left the episode Ardyn DLC with that sweet sweet song playing in the background.
Oh,
I might have
only
just
the best.
I might have just never left that.
I think that might
Um,
be our outro song for the week.
Yeah.
I think we're just gonna play that fucking thing. Oh,
Another part that they changed was and this is worked well with the addition of episode Ardyn, which is the only reason why they changed it. There's you fight the kings of old as Noctis. They've been like corrupted,
yeah.
and you have to fight them as you're climbing the tower to find and fight Ardyn.
Yeah,
And I thought that was really cool.
It really expanded. This is probably the best changes in the game. Is that they really expanded the final area. Although I thought that part was great in the original, so I guess I didn't know what I was missing.
Yeah. Well, see the problem with
now more of like a Final Fantasy ending. There's like multiple levels and it gets crazier and yeah.
It's the what I was saying earlier. They left the parts that sucked sucky, and then they kind of
they improved
tinkered with
things
the
that
parts.
didn't need to be improved that much, but I'm
Yeah,
glad
because
they were.
they improved the ending by having those fights against the kings of old, and it's kind of symbolic of what he's about to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the World of Darkness is still ass.
Yeah, the World of Darkness, they still just sit there and go like, "Oh, nice to see you, Noct. It's been 15 years. Okay, let's get going."
Yeah, ready to go die.
In fact, they don't even
mankind.
say that. They're just like, "You're here. It's time."
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck kind of a conversation is this?
I know. So the stuff yeah, it's still dumb, and there's not really anything extra. All I did was kill Demon Wall because I remembered how he kicked my ass.
I killed Demon Wall
last time. Yeah, so I killed him with the ring, countering the shit out of him with the parries, with the Ring of the Lucii. That's all I did, and then I just beat the game. I was like, yeah, there's nothing here. It's still a barren wasteland. Yeah, dude, I like a lot of the stuff that the game has to offer, but I don't think this version is terrible. I think without the Kingsglaive scenes, it's actually pretty good. And then it was pretty dark seeing your dad just like hung up there in the throne room. I don't remember that the first time. I remember the Kingsglaive guys and like someone else, but I don't remember like Luna and your dad and those guys hanging up there.
I don't remember that image, but it could have been there.
It was pretty fucking crazy though. Especially right after he called back to your dad, what your dad said right as you left, and then there he is dead. Or a mirage of him dead. But
yeah,
I don't know.
They improved things that didn't need to be improved, but I'm glad they were. And then like they shoved shit in where it didn't need to be. And honestly, it was better to keep the Ravis plot a mystery.
Yeah.
Than to add all those fucking Kingsglaive cutscenes and just horrible dialogue, and I don't think it improved the game at all in that area.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the DLCs then. Let's talk first about episode Gladio. Episode Gladio. So Gladio, I remember he has to take off. He's like, "Oh, I gotta leave for some reason, guys." And that's the point in which episode Gladio is supposed to start. So you have to go back into the menu once you get to a save point, and then you open up episode Gladio. And Gladio is just, and this story doesn't really like mesh with anything else, but he is trying to take on the Blade Master at Gilgamesh's cave to be a better protector. I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, pretty much. So his bro Core basically heard about this sweet side quest that they could take on that was taking on the Blade Master. And this is something that Core did in the past. And you remember Core was supposed to be one of the characters in the game. Although he would have been like the weird old uncle, because he's apparently like 40 something in this game. I'm like, what the fuck? These people don't age for shit. But he's done this before. So Core has actually taken on the Blade Master, and I think he lost is what it was. He lost, and now his sword is one of the swords that I think his sword is the Masamune or the Masamune or whatever the hell you call it. I think that was Core's, and he was. I like the Gilgamesh lore in this one because essentially it's all the swords that he collects, and it's kind of different based on which Gilgamesh we're talking about. Some of the Gilgamesh, most of them like end up stealing the swords, and they're like these like devious thieves.
You mean throughout the series?
Yeah, throughout the series. But 15's Gilgamesh is actually pretty fucking legit. He just kills all the people and takes their swords. Like people come to challenge him, and he just swats them down. And he has this like field of swords, which is really cool. But basically, yeah, Core just takes Gladiolus into this cave. It's this like total bro up of these two guys, and they just go. And it is basically he wants to be a better swordsman, and it's like a good training thing. That's really all it is.
It's like a 1 hour path, if that, going down of just like little sword fights until you fight Gilgamesh. And then you beat him, of course. And then there's like, the last guy that beat him was probably Core or something like that.
Yeah.
I wrote creatures are pretty cool. He gains powers as he defeats enemies. He's got to be there to be the king's shield. That's right. That's the reason why he's there. He leaves his king completely alone and helpless to go be the king's shield through Gladiolus's or through Gilgamesh's cave. And did you find the final battle a little like underwhelming after some of the fights leading up to it?
Kinda, yeah. I did die once stupidly, but it wasn't. It's a pretty easy DLC. It
felt like the fight before it was harder than him. I hate it when they do that in games, when they make the final boss less difficult than the boss before it. Like, come on, what are you doing here? Did you platinum this thing, right?
The only thing I'm missing is the score for episode Ardyn, and then the data log stuff, because you have to fill like 80% of the data log, and what you can do is I think the beast area is part of that, and then also the like finding lore stones and doing extra dungeons, which I was just like, dude, I can't keep pushing this out. Like I've already pushed this out like fucking a while, like months. Joe's been done for like almost 2 months. I'm like, I can't do this. So I did everything but those two, and then of course not Kingslave, sorry, Jesus, Comrades, which I discovered via a website that I can actually play the original Comrades and get all of the Final Fantasy 15 trophies if I go offline after deleting updates to 15,
which you may want to do to actually enjoy the original game.
Yeah, I was reading it, and it was like, it sounds like the original version of Comrades is actually less grindy too, which sounds like a good deal to me because it's a fucking grind fest. So yeah, I got everything in the DLCs except for those two. But I fought like an extra boss and then did all the extra stuff in the game. Like I fought Omega in the end of the right next to the in the city of Insomnia. He was a 2 hour fight. It was kind of crazy. It wasn't. It was actually a lot better than the one
Then the
for
giant turtle,
yeah, the
Adamantoise.
giant turtle. Took just about as long, but it was actually a good fight. He just has a shitload of defense, so I was doing like almost no damage until I got the armature up.
Yeah, I was asking you if you were like phasing into him, like what they normally do with the super boss fights with 15.
Yeah, yeah. Are you glitching
Are
in?
you glitching into his body
Yeah.
and seeing
What?
his brains?
I don't understand. Why not?
Why can't you just kill him from in there? Like,
Yeah, if yeah, go like Osmosis Jones on his ass. Like I'm inside, man. Fucking flow up through his to his heart. Just stop that thing.
did you just do an Osmosis Jones reference?
Hell yeah. Movie only though, not the TV show.
I didn't even know there was a TV show. So way to go.
there sure is. There sure is, man.
Did the TV show
Don't
have oh fuck, who starred in that thing? Ooh shit. I don't want to say the wrong name. Let's
I
move
have a
on.
history. I have a history of that, so
Let's move on to episode Ignis.
yeah. So episode Ignis. I liked it. This is kind of where I actually started taking notes. I thought that I liked it, but here's the caveat to that. It's another situation where the mystery surrounding his eyesight being lost is better than actually seeing what happened. This would be my one complaint to this episode because honestly, like, I don't know. I think it's cool that he was able to put on the ring and that his sacrifice was his eyesight. But I don't really know how important that actually is because the fact that he put the ring on doesn't really get mentioned ever. Again, no one ever knows about it in the story, no one but him.
No, and that can only
Ardyn.
work if you've watched the movie as well.
Yeah, because you know that
Because
other
you know
people
what
can
the
use
fuck
the
happens
ring
with the ring.
and it has a cost. Because and again, even in 15, you don't realize that the power of the ring is what, he used to kill Ardyn and the cost for that was his life. It's not really quite as clear as it is in this version of it because Bahamut, has his TED talk, as someone said earlier in the chat, about all the shit that's happening, and so you kind of figure out that that is the cost for defeating Ardyn, and that's kind of like a way for Bahamut to sort of give Ardyn what he wants as well, because he kind of made them both pawns in a way, but gave him what they needed. But yeah, we do get some more Ravis backstory. Really, Ravis just kind of a prick.
That was the area where we got some more Luna Freya as well.
Yeah, some more Luna Freya. Honestly, though, it's like, does it really matter? I mean,
no, and I did not care for the gameplay in this one either.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. Yeah, that one drove me
I don't
nuts.
know. It was
like the spinny thing where you're just like doing all this like, oh no, maybe I'm thinking of Ardyn. Fuck, Schweiss shouldn't have played this a month and a half ago.
I know.
What was Ignis's gameplay like? I remember the other two guys.
Ignis was just like doing fast combos with his little knives. And then you had to like take over the areas in the city.
Fine. Yeah, that one was
fine. You can focus and then do like mega attacks. It was okay.
The problem child in the DLC gameplay realm is definitely episode Prompto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But Ignis is there were some cool moments in there. Really, Ravis is just kind of a prick. I mean, that's all I can really say about him. He's just a moody asshole, and he doesn't think his sister should be with Noctis, but he knows Noctis is the one true king, but he's going to be a dick about it the whole time. And I don't really get it. I mean, other than the fact that a long time ago, child Noctis and daddy Regis fled when they were being attacked. That's the only animosity really, honestly, that's the only justification for his animosity, and it seems a little childish because he was a fucking child. He was a kid when that happened in that anime, where I think it was the anime. It was one of the fucking media pieces where we saw like a big attack happening, and then Regis and Noctis had to leave Lunafreya and him to get captured by Niflheim.
Yeah,
It's like that.
he's blaming the Lucius Kings for all the deaths.
Yeah, he's just a little bitch. And then when he put on their ring and they rejected his ass because he's been a little bitch to him his whole life. Now he's got a fake arm and he's a real douchebag. I don't know. He's just annoying to me. I wish I could like his character, and I like how he 180s.
I bet he's addicted to pain pills. That
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. What a loser. I bet you that arm really fucking hurt when that thing burned off to a crisp.
Sorry.
But dude, I don't know. I like how he's just a weird character, because like he's this guy from this other kingdom that they've held hostage his whole life. He's not particularly nice to either side. He's kind of a douchebag to Ardyn. He's kind of a douchebag to Noctis. He basically just wants what's best for his sister, but she dies, and then he goes against Ardyn and he gets killed. It's like I don't know. I almost don't even know why he's in the game. Like, if I'm really thinking about it, I
narrative tool. But I don't even think they were thinking about what he was doing in the original game.
No, I don't think
they
so
had
either.
a different plan for him, and then they were like, "Oh, we got to fix him," and so we're gonna fix him through the DLCs.
Yeah,
that's what it seems like, because they added so many scenes into the original section of the game.
Yeah, and I don't know that they did that for Ravus. They gave us a little bit more about him. I mean,
because it was odd in the original game when you just like show up and like Ravus is fucking dead. And you're like, okay, all right, something terrible happened. That's enough for me. Let's move on.
It really was, because even when they explain it further, like I said, he's just kind of a douche.
Yeah,
like,
he's got a lot of animosity. It seems like he's working for one team and then he flips. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, he's like Aranea, but with no tits and with a real sour attitude.
Let's put that as a quote, and we could put that in the Wikipedia page for Ravus.
Yeah, like Luna, like oh shit, I forgot her name already. Aranea, but without tits and a real sour puss attitude.
There you go.
Real puss face.
Real puss face.
Yeah.
Nude claim
No,
reference.
it's really annoying though. I liked seeing exactly how he died.
Yeah, I like that too. There was the thing that was like the convenience of the papers, and I don't remember if it's episode Ardyn or if it's episode Ignis, but then Ardyn like places the papers in the spots you see in the flashback thing, and I'm like, oh, that's why it was so convenient, because I like made fun of it when I was playing it. I was like, why are those papers laid out just like that, giving you all the exposition? It's like, oh, Ardyn did it. It's like now it makes more sense, but it's still kind of silly and weird. But
yeah, Ardyn's the master of disguise too.
Yeah, that's true. He is. I mean, he was like that in the original, but only for like 2 parts.
I liked that in the whole thing, but yeah, I don't know. And then Ignis, like I said, he has a face off against Ardyn, protecting Noctis, because Noctis is super fucked up, and he puts on the ring, and that gives him the power to defeat Ardyn, but at the cost of his eyesight. So they go real kind of soft core on.
Yeah, they're like, we'll just take away his eyesight.
Yeah, Noctis. So he dies. Nyx from the movie, he turns to stone. But this guy, we're just gonna blind him. He likes his eyes a lot.
We really like this guy.
Yeah, he doesn't shut up about his eyesight, but hey, you got to talk about something on those long car rides. We're gonna take it from him, though.
It's not that he doesn't shut up about it. It's that Prompto and Gladio are like, "Hey, wait up! Can't you see this fucking idiot over here?
Look at him. He's looking the wrong way.
You see this cripple over here? Don't you see what you're doing? We gotta wait for his ass. Noctis, hold on." I'm like, I'm trying to speed through New Game Plus. Leave me alone. I know what happens. No, look at him. Look at him hobbling. Oh, he's fine. Like an idiot.
Yeah. He's not even looking at us. I think there are way too few scenes of him. Like, I want like epic, like they're witnessing something horrifying, and then he's just looking the wrong direction. Like he's like, no, turn around.
That's what you want for every blind character in every Final Fantasy.
Yeah. I want it to be very clear that they're blind because they're not paying attention
You
to what
want
should
to
be
use
looked
their disability as comic relief.
at. Yeah, why wouldn't you? What else is it good for? He's useless. I mean,
This is just gonna be Snooty. He can't even drive anymore. He was my fucking
Yeah.
driver.
oh, you gonna make fun of my driving now, asshole? Let's see you drive.
Maybe I
You
shouldn't
can
drive
fight?
at night.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't drive at all. But he fights just
Is that
fine
water
somehow.
bottle crinkling I hear?
Yeah.
Does that sound like single-use plastic bottles?
Yeah.
There's a reference to KupoCon. All right.
Yeah. Jesus.
By far the worst episode to play. Episode motherfucking Prompto.
You think so? Because Gladiolus was frustrating. Gladiolus took everything frustrating about the regular game and like amplified it. It's like, oh, is the parrying time not great in 15? Wait till you play Gladiolus. It's just you don't know what it is.
Oh, I thought that at the beginning, but then I got used to the combat and was kind of like,
Yeah,
I don't know. I got used to Gladiolus's combat pretty fast. It was certainly frustrating at the beginning. At the beginning, I was like, why isn't it working like it does in the original game? What is this fucking shit? And then, I kind of figured out it's just always blocking and parrying and then like wiping them out.
The timing for the parry really bothers me, but you can get it down. You can. But it bothered me. It bothers me in the original game too.
It is slightly better than episode Disque.
Yeah. Well. Oh yeah. Just that thing. I remembered like when we had to do that parry attack. It took us like 20 minutes to figure out how to fucking do it because the game's like,
I don't think
you just gotta press circle at the right time, and I'm like, what's the fucking right time? It's not a parry if the guy's pounding me and then I press it. Like,
there's a triangle on your screen for 20 seconds. You guess when you're supposed to hit.
Yeah. You decide. So it is better than that. Yes, it's better than the worst combat I've ever played. As far as like, can't move forward until you figure out this unfigure-outable thing.
We all know the worst combat ever played is the chest throwing from fucking Crystal Bearers, Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to remind you of that.
Oh man, that fucking volleyball scene, the rage.
You could just skip through that, but. I re-listened to that episode the other day. I was like, I want to hear.
Did you?
I want to hear Schweiss like cry about the volleyball scene.
I can't believe it. I don't know how I didn't know that it was skippable, and you did. Like, you don't even know, man. It was so bad. It was so awful. Because the bar doesn't comprehend the movement, and then the fucking
the whole game's like that. Remember the final boss? He had to like fly up and down, and like there's just like the fist that comes out.
Like, I can't see shit. Yeah, I hate that fucking final boss, dude. And it was like, we were like ready to record. You're like, oh, we got to do it by 3. We got to record at 3 p.m. and it's like 1:30, and I'm like, fuck. I've had like 2 hours of sleep. I can't see what's happening. This game is just, the controls are shit. The visuals are shit. The fist is shit.
Speaking of getting fisted, episode Prompto snowmobile.
God, dude. Oh no. Oh no.
See, when you were like, are you sure it's not episode Gladiolus? Like, what the fuck are you talking about, Schweiss? Half a fucking episode Prompto is on a goddamn snowmobile, and they just took the code they had lying around from Final Fantasy VII's snowboarding minigame, brought it in, and then had guys shooting at you. That's how it feels. It's such a fucking clunky piece of shit. Oh my god.
It is, dude, and most of the DLC is spent on that thing too.
There's also like no story in this one. You're just like finding out about like the place, which you also find out more about in the episode Ardyn DLC. You're just finding out about the experiments and all these like people, which you kind of get that information from the original game. So it really is just Prompto third-person shooter, which is a really easy third-person shooter that's really repetitive, plus snowboarding.
Yeah.
Which I would like you to talk about. We have a 20-minute video, which we haven't put up on YouTube yet, that Jake sliced together a whole bunch of your greatest hits while you were repeating the snowboarding minigame.
man. So episode Prompto. Pretty much all we get is Prompto has daddy issues with the midget dwarf guy with like that evil voice that does not fit him in episode Ardyn. By the way, as a young man, I don't know if you know this about
Why?
human beings, but their voices change over time. And that guy, it does not fit his face at all when he's younger. But we find out what happened to him, I guess. So that's cool. He turns into the ultimate fucking demon, this like Resident Evil demon boss worm man. But
Yeah, the
before all that,
giant worm.
and during that, the snowmobile. So Prompto, since he's in Siberia, has a snowmobile, and the snowmobile can be upgraded throughout the DLC. Didn't do it once, thought about it, realized that it didn't actually matter, and said, you know what, fuck this, I'm done. I'm only going to do what gets me rewards that are useful, like trophies. So Super Boss in that one was pretty crazy. Once you figure it out, though, it's not that bad. It was just a lot of the one thing I liked about Prompto was like it's like a pot shot move or something like that, where he does his kill shot, and I thought those were pretty cool. But the snowmobile is your main transportation device, and while you're riding around in this world, random the side quests in this one is really bizarre too. You'll just be driving around in the
I didn't know
snowmobile,
there
and
were
like
side quests. There you go.
other little quest icons will pop up, and you just have to go to them and do whatever it is. And I did one, and I failed it, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I don't want to do that anymore. And then I saw that I had to kill like the Behemoth King, and so that was the only one I actually ended up doing. I'm pretty sure
How was that?
it was tough. It was a pretty long fight. Honestly, there are certain ways to like stagger him, and he's really unfair because he'll like jump up into the air and like drop down on you, and it's really hard to dodge. But I found a way to kind of get around it once I added RNA to the party because I tried to face it with just Prompto, and it was really hard. But the nice thing about 15 is when you do like a special move, it basically just ignores everything else going on in the world. And so, like, right when he was coming down on me, I would just do like a special move, and then like RNA would just fly up into the sky and do a dragoon shit, and I wouldn't take damage the whole time. So it was pretty easy with her
That's true. It
to
does
kill him. But
extend Arnea's character, and it does extend the Prompto Arnea flirtation.
yeah,
If you were
yeah,
missing that from the original game.
yeah. If you felt like you needed more of Prompto simping on the women, like, which I don't know that I did, but I don't know. RNA is pretty hot, I guess. So whatever. Fighting her was pretty fun too. You have to one of the extra fights is fighting her, but the real extra thing in this DLC is the snowmobile. Um, it's not as bad as the chocobo racing in Final Fantasy X,
It's not as bad as the worst mini game in the series.
but it is worse than the second worst minigame in the series, the Butterfly 1 and 10. Uh, it's bad, man, and it's not just bad because it's like hard. It's bad because it's unfair, man. You'll like fucking and there's oh man, the snowmobile. Now, okay, I'm not a snowmobile guy, so I haven't spent time in a snowmobile. I don't think I've ever actually been in a snowmobile, honestly.
I've never
I've
been
been
in a
on like
snowmobile.
four-wheelers and shit like that, but every little thing in your way in this snowmobile will fuck you up because like you're riding through the Salam, this fucking like ski resort with these speed crystals that you have to pick up or else you're fucked. So there's pressure to pick up the speed crystals, but when you pick up a speed crystal, it makes you like burst forward. It's like a little dose of nos for your fucking snowmobile.
I need NOS.
Yeah, and and the fucking every time you hit one in midair, you launch higher and higher. And there's ones right off the ramp. But the problem is, it's like you have to hit them if you want to make the time because the times are like sick. I don't know who the fuck set the times to these things. And you have to get 3 stars in each of them to get a gold trophy. And of course, I was like, I'm going to do it because if I don't do it now, I'll never do it in the future because I hate it and it's awful. And I just sat there for like, dude, it was like 5 hours of my life
It's
that
all
I
on
spent on
Twitch. You
this.
guys can watch it. Don't worry.
And it's bad. Like there are times where I would I'll like land, and just for no reason at all, as far as I
You
can
just
tell,
jump up in the air.
my yeah, I'll just fly up into the air, do like a fucking 180, and then I'm like driving backwards, trying to like turn this piece of shit around. Or like I hit a rock, you hit a rock and it slows you down like 6 seconds. I'm like, fuck, there's rocks everywhere, man. But if you jump, you run the risk of like bumping a crystal and then it launches your ass in the air again. It's just awful. The controls are terrible for this fucking minigame. Like
It was terrible for the actual game part. I didn't do the minigame shit. It said you want to do some more snowboard and snowmobiling. I'm like, fuck no. Fuck no. This is the worst handling I've ever played in a game ever.
Yeah, it's bad. And
except for the tank controls in A New Nightmare, Alone in the Dark.
Yeah.
Second worst.
It's just totally unforgiving, and like it's a perfect case of just doing the same thing over and over again, but you get different results. Like I'll take the jump, I'll miss the crystal, and then I'll slam into something on the ground, and it'll like fucking rip my snowmobile around. I'll be doing like these spins, timer's just flying up, and I'm like trying to fucking reorient myself. And then like the visuals of it all, like just the fucking way the crystals manifest themselves on the screen. It's like I can't tell. And the camera sometimes is like swooping because I think my controller's like fucky. It's either 15 is fucky or my controller is. So the camera's like whoosh, just like fucking panning around him on this fucking snowmobile. And I'm trying to get these fucking dick thick crystals that are floating above me in the snowmobile. And I'm like, I can't see shit. The visuals are bad. The controls are terrible. Every time I go off a ramp, there's like a 80% chance that I'm just going to get absolutely like shellacked at the end of it. I'm going to fucking land like a little bit off. Like I'll land on the side of the fucking mountain, and I'll just do like a couple barrel rolls, and then I'll be driving backwards for 5 seconds. And then it's like, oh, retry. And then every time you retry, you get the loading screen. So I'm just like fucking, and the loading screens are trash still.
No PS4 Pro.
No Pro. If I had a PS5, I'd probably be able to load, but I hear that the loading time is just as fucking bad. So
really,
it's the game,
okay.
Dude. Yeah, I hate snowmobile in this game. I hate it. It's probably the hardest thing in the game, I would say, and the trophy percentages back me up on this. Because I think that's the rarest one in 15 is that fucking snowboard.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah, dude, it's fucking hard. It's not fun at all. So there's that. So that's already like most people don't want to partake because, well, it's just not a good time. So why would I play a video game that I don't like? And yeah, I hate it, dude. It's bad. It's bad. There's some funny moments, but
yeah, there's some funny moments if you're not on the snowmobile.
Yeah.
In the game. Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was fine to spend time with those three characters a little bit more. And what I thought was cool was how they tied in what they did to like the extra 4 hours at the end of the game now, where they're like all coming together as a team. And of course the Prompto shit like fucked me up. And I was like, what am I doing? I can't remember how to play this. In the middle of that fight where he's like gone out to the outside and he's all in darkness and I'm trying to shoot at him. That was really crazy, but one of the kings that you're supposed to fight. So I thought that was cool. And of course the one that gives you the most story is definitely Ignis. Like it gives you all a whole bunch of Ardyn, Lunafreya, Ravis explanations through there. So if there's going to be one that you're going to play to clear up 15 for you, it's that one. The other two are just kind of like quirky, fun little things. If you can call
one more note.
Snowmobiling fun.
Oh, you can't. One quick note though on episode Ignis. So one of the bonus fights, or the bonus fight in episode Ignis, is against Noctis, and he's brutal. He's very brutal. In fact, like when he starts to lose, he throws a little bitch fit and he starts using the Ring of the Lucii on you, your best friend. And like Ignis,
I'm gonna take your soul away, you little fuck.
Yeah. You think you're gonna win today? I don't think you're gonna win at all. And dude, And yeah, you start like getting all skinny and thin, and then you explode. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm your best friend. I've been cooking for
It's
you
like
for like
you play against
10
evil
years.
Noctis in episode
Yes.
Ignis. I didn't even know that was an option.
And not only that, he does it twice in the fight, and you have to like hammer him to interrupt it. But he'll just eliminate you, and you'll just like explode, and your game's over. So he's a real fucking asshole when he starts losing.
Give
I
me the
thought that was
ring,
pretty
Noctis.
fucked up.
Let me show you what I can do with it.
Yeah, yeah, what an ass. But dude,
I didn't even know that was the thing. That's great.
I thought that was super dark because it's like, I mean, I get it's just a challenge part, and you have to like, it's like a DPS check almost, where you have to do as much damage as you can real fast.
What was like
or
the
interrupt
quest or story thing? Do you remember like the setup for that? The fight itself?
The fight itself, oh, it was they have like they'll train at camp. Is basically
Oh,
what
there was a
happens.
sparring match?
Yeah, it was just a sparring
It
match.
was a sparring match, and he pulls out the ring of Lucii
Yes.
to murder
He
his friend.
Yeah, when he's losing the fight, he's like,
I
"Not
can't
today.
lose.
I don't ever lose."
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god. That's funny.
Yeah, it was just a sparring match at camp, basically, and he just tries to fucking unmake you, just eliminate you from all time and space with the fucking ring.
God.
Yeah, what a dick. He'd be a shitty king. It's a good thing he died.
Oh,
He's gonna be pulling that shit.
I don't know. Something tells me someone's coming back.
Oh, don't fucking say
In
that.
the dawn of the future, I don't know. I have no idea. Someone said something like that on our forums once, and it's freaking me out. But
They better not, dude. I swear to God.
well,
If this is 10.2.5, it's over. It's done.
so we've gone through now the season pass content. We've gone through the good and the bad, largely, of what they added into the original game. So if you were to buy the Royal Edition at the store right now, this is what you'd have. Which we can talk about how we feel about all this at the end. Because I think that is one of the discussion points I want to get into is like, what would this be like for a first-time player, and does this represent 15? But there is one more DLC that they made sure to throw out right before Tabata quit, or right as Tabata was quitting, and that was episode Ardyn, which is the entire backstory for, or at least as far as I know, there might be more in this book that we're going to read, which is our next review. The Ardyn backstory of what took place 2,000 years ago and how he became the man he is today.
Yep. So, again, solo. It's the same thing. Like, Ardyn is a very interesting bad guy. I really like Ardyn. Honestly, Ardyn is arguably the best bad guy in the whole series. I think there's an argument there.
We argued it.
Yeah. Do you have him as your number one?
I put him as number one. It was fresh
I can
off
see it.
15. He doesn't have the classic patina on him yet. Like, he's not a classic car. He's like a brand new Tesla. But, you know, still a great piece of work, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, episode Ardyn takes place over 2,000 years ago. He's hailed as a savior, and he's supposed to be the next king of Lucius. He's disguised as a guard. He goes into Lucius on Founders Day, and it like goes back and forth between him like starting to cause chaos on Founders Day and Lucius years later, and then of course like his original tragic love story slash you know, the throne, his love for the throne being taken away from him. Oh.
Yeah, so basically he was meant to be king, but the crystal ended up siding with his what is it, his brother?
Yeah.
His cousin, some shit. I guess it is his brother. I don't know. It's weird because they have like different last names, but fuck it, whatever. I don't care. So the crystal ends up siding with his bro because he is too corrupted by the star scourge that he's been purging from people.
Yeah, that's how the gods see him. And his brother is like this very selfish, power hungry kind of guy. So he's exactly the wrong person you want to have the power to, be bestowed upon him and his line, like this title from the gods. He's the he's the next king, and he basically steals the title from him, and the woman that he loved is killed by him, and then Ardyn is sent to Angel Guard, which I believe is the name of the island that he's sent to, and he's like wrapped in chains and he can't leave, and then he sits there for like hundreds of years in his own misery, like plotting his revenge and hating everything and having this star scourge on him. And then eventually someone who's really curious, I guess, just pops him out of there. And hundreds of years later, and then people do scientific experiments on him, and they're all trying to figure out like what his powers are as this, legendary figure from the past. And eventually he realizes that someone attacks the laboratory he's in. It's the same one that Prompto was in. And when that happens, like, Ardyn like freaks out and realizes that he could actually give the Star Scourge to someone else. And then he realizes what he must do. And he must wreak havoc upon Lucius, the whole line of Lucius, because of what he did. And and instead of saving everybody from the Star Scourge, he's going to wrap the world in darkness via his Star Scourge reversal powers.
Yeah, so he's able to like put it into people and basically create demons out of them. Over the course of the DLC, he gets convinced by that. I think it's like Verstal or whatever, the little midget guy that turns into the worm in the end. There's a young version of him because he's the one that pulls Ardyn out of his purgatory. And kind of convinces him that he needs to go kill Lucius because they're trying to use him as, their go-between to conquer this kingdom that's been a giant pain in their ass, and they know that this guy has a serious long-time grudge. And over time, he ends up agreeing with him. But this is where Ardyn is kind of like Ravus, except for Ravus is just a prick, and Ardyn is a guy who was wronged and, has this 1,000-year grudge, basically, or hundreds of years worth of grudge against this line. And he can't take out Somnus himself. He has to take out his line. Exactly.
Somnus is long dead. But
although
Ardyn
he does fight Somnus in his weird deity guardian form near the end of this trial.
Right, yeah, the added stuff into the story is now that all the kings of Lucia actually have they can come down in their statue forms exactly and guard the kingdom. And of course he he gets rid of his brother, and then also like one of the coolest parts of this thing is like the subjugation of Ifrit. And that's where we learn that like why Ifrit, the god Ifrit, is under Ardyn's control at the end of the game.
Yeah, he basically just beat his ass, and
he gave him the Star Scourge. He subjugated him.
Yeah. Yep. Which is pretty hardcore, honestly. He enslaved a god essentially there, which is pretty cool. And he's got a really, I don't know, this is what makes him so cool, is that he's like Kefka, where he gets exactly what he wants in the end, because he makes this deal with Bahamut, basically, where Bahamut basically tells him that he's immortal, but the only way his immortality can end is by killing Noctis, and that'll basically end his suffering, and that'll give him exactly what he wants. So it's almost like for him, it's kind of the good ending, because he's wanted to be destroyed for so long.
Ever since Arya, I think is her name. Arya? I don't remember his
something like that. His
Era.
woman.
His
woman back in the day.
Yeah, and he's been sitting there with all that disease and all that hatred in that dark cave for so many years, and got to finally just destroy all sides of the line. And his brothers, honestly.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I don't know, it's sort of symbolic of just like keeping all that stuff pent up, after over years and years and years, it just becomes twisted and evil and
Sure. Yeah.
all of that. So I think that's a cool, like, I don't know, allegory of the cave, but it's Ardyn's cave.
I don't think it has anything to do with the allegory of the cave.
It's his own version. That's nothing
He
like
is in a cave,
the
and
original.
you are drawing an allegory, but that is not the
Yeah.
allegory of the cave.
No, it's his own twist.
Sure.
And by twist I mean totally
It's
different,
totally
but
different, yes. Old twist.
I don't know. I think it's kind of symbolic of that. There's a lot of good stuff. That's what I'm saying. Like there's a lot of good stuff in this game, and in these DLCs, but a lot of it just ends up falling flat.
So
But
that whole
it's
line of
totally
Go ahead.
okay. I was like, this is another part where it's really Lion Kingy, because it you've got Somnus, who's kind of like a Mufasa sort of figure. He's like pure, and Ardyn is this like, he turns into like almost like a Scar guy. I don't know. It's like as I was playing this again, I was like, man, this thing is basically the Lion King, like half of the time, and then the other half it's Jared. So it's like it's hard to
The other half of the
appreciate.
game that Jared takes over for.
Yeah,
Hey, you remember all those
yeah,
Jared
yeah,
chapters?
yeah. Jared in the driver's seat. Yeah, man, killing
Jared in
it.
the driver's seat. That's a
The
really good
Galleria of.
phone game that'll go along with it. I'm surprised they
Oh,
didn't do that one.
they don't want to get all. They can't make all the money in the world. That's just not
Final
fair.
Fantasy 15, Jared in the driver's seat.
I know. Why waste
It's a
money
little
on
racing
Pocket? Yeah, why waste money on the Pocket Edition when you could have made a Jared game? It's like they don't even want to make money. But yeah, I liked seeing some of Ardyn's back stuff. I thought it was cool that he, how long. It seems like it took him a long time to come around to the idea of getting his vengeance.
I really
And
liked Ardyn DLC. I think the other 3 DLCs I can take it or leave it. I really liked the Ardyn one just because of like that's a perfect DLC. Like it doesn't need to be there. You don't need to have it in order to understand or play the game. But it's something cool as like an extra thing is to like see this guy's kind of story play out. Plus get a amazing rap song along with it.
yeah,
When you're going and you're trying to take your revenge out on Lucius, or you're trying to cause chaos on that day or whatever, and you're fighting all the king statues and all that shit, and you just have just the most amazing soundtrack to back you up. It just makes you feel like a god. It tells your entire
yeah,
story through bad English lyrics in a rap song in the background. That's really spectacular.
yeah. It really is. Let's you know what? Let's read some of the lyrics to this thing.
Do you have the lyrics? Because I couldn't find them. I couldn't find anything on this song except the fucking song itself, which someone else had a link to me in Twitter. Which don't worry, guys, for those at home who don't understand what we're talking about, that the worst song in the entire series will be, at least we'll play a chunk on the back end of this episode. Don't you worry. You'll get to hear a taste of the episode Ardyn battle theme. Oh my god. I see you squinting there, Schweiss. What are you looking for?
I'm trying to find out the name of it. Is it Conditioned to Hate? I think it is. I first thought it was Insomnia theme. Oh man.
You're not
It's
gonna
okay,
find
so
it. It's so hard to find. You can find it while I'm giving you my final thoughts on 15.
okay, go ahead.
So, because that kind of covers all the DLCs. Well, how did you feel about episode Ardyn? I didn't ask.
I think it's okay. I think the combat is actually pretty fucking fun.
Yeah, it is.
It's like enough that I think this is a good DLC because you really get to see just how much of a badass this guy is. And it dives more into his purpose, and he gets orders in this DLC to like stop destroying the city, and he basically tells those guys like, go fuck off, I'm gonna do what I want. And no one has any control over him, and he really does get what he wants in the end. So I really like Ardyn, and so I think his character makes this DLC a pretty good time. So I honestly I would recommend playing this one.
Just
I think
have a
it's
different
cool.
soundtrack.
Yeah, just don't listen to the song. I found the lyrics. I found them.
Okay. Now it's my turn. Watch me retaliate. That's the line I remember hooking all the time. I just found him too. Oh my god.
This is the one that I kept hearing that would bother me, that made me very upset. It's become the king of the kingdom over here. Do it how you want it, however you like it. This is the place to be. The path to chaos begins here, so come here. Become the king of the kingdom over here. I was like, this is like ultimate
on the nose.
It's ultimate Pantera. It's like the worst of Pantera in a rap song. Just fucking my ears hear what you say to me.
My ears can hear what you say to me.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's on that level of bad lines. The thing is, it's like telling the story of episode Ardyn while you're playing episode Ardyn.
Yeah, it's so stupid. It's like it is. It's telling you the story in this awful song that you could barely
Watch
hear.
Me retaliate. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's so bad. Guys.
Trust no one fully. The closest ones could be the ones who break your neck in your sleep. That's how they do it. But I gotta think, y'all, for a lesson. Now you're messing with the man who's obsessing with his vengeance. They better know. They better know what's really at stake. It's my turn now. Watch me retaliate. No one can fully understand anyone, but the backstabber, it's the obvious one. Manipulating lies by many, I'm the only one. Conscious, the law doesn't bother me like a lonely one. Nonsense, the most wanted, the most toyed. Get ready for me. Look what y'all started. God, that one though, they're like, I just kept ripping on it, like the become the king of the kingdom over here. I'm gonna be a king of you, king of the land. This is the kingdom. I'm in a kingdom. This is a city, but it's a kingdom. It's like, fucking shut up, shut the fuck up. It was like the most satisfying thing ever when I sat down on a bench and I got elevator music. I was like, oh my god. Woo! This is now the soundtrack's now it's sounding good.
I think I asked you when you finally beat this thing. I asked you, what's a worse rap song? Is it this or is it Stupid Ho?
Man, it's a. All right, I think maybe Stupid Ho is probably worse, but
given the context of episode Ardyn, no, absolutely not. Oh. All right.
This is the place to be.
This is the place to be. It's
God damn it.
It's atrocious, guys. It's atrocious.
This is like 2000s level, like Limp Bizkit kind of like just
Limp
Bizkit
sounds is like. So much better than this.
But yeah, it's worse though. Yeah, it's like it's all the worst excesses of Limp Bizkit and Pantera slapped into a game that came out in like 2018. What the fuck? Why did they do this? What was the reason?
Who's the poor guy who's never gonna have a career after that song? Who's the poor rap artist who took this on?
It was composed by Taku Iwasaka and is performed by the Japanese rapper Lotus Juice.
Oh.
Lotus Juice. I'm sorry. He was destined to fail. But hey, he's notable for his work on the video game Shin Megami Tensei 3, Persona 3 and its spin-offs. But Lotus, I'm sorry,
sorry, Lotus. Lotus Juice.
I think that's his real name, or that's just his rap name.
It's Japanese, so it's got to be Ramaji. It's got to be Oroteso Juice.
Yeah,
that's what it would be.
I do. I wonder, like, because it says it's performed by him, so he wrote this.
So that's why. So it sounds awkward as fuck because the English is not this guy's first language.
I think so.
There we go. Yeah, that's what it
must.
sounded like it was, only it sounded natural. Like it didn't sound like a foreigner speaking. It's just like what was coming out of his mouth was garbage. That's as far as the lyrics were concerned.
Yeah. I can't get over the become the king of the kingdom over here. It's too much. It bothers me. I hate this song, dude. It's so bad.
Yeah, it's awful.
And it's the whole time you're in the city, which is like most of the DLC. You just have to hear this fucking song just going and going and going and going. And it's so dumb because you're right. It's describing him and what he's doing and what he's like feeling and what has happened to him while he's doing the things that the song is singing about. It's just madness. It's madness. I hate it. And it's you can fucking play it in the game. You know how like the music player, there's a music player in FF15.
Yeah.
You can listen to this song while you're playing 15.
There's nothing I want to do more.
Yeah. What are we doing here? Let's wrap this up so we can go do that very thing right now.
Oh
man.
All right. So as far as wrap up is concerned, DLCs are they're fine. I think Prompto is pretty bad in terms of the gameplay. I like the episode Ardyn once again as a thing, but overall, I had a lot of thoughts as I was playing this game about how this would look to a first-time player in terms of like your experience playing Final Fantasy 15. So playing through the story, and then separate from that, going into the DLCs that are included with the Royal Edition of the game. Or at least the one that you get in the store, Royal Edition, not the one you get on the fucking PlayStation. Still needs the Where Were You scene. Definitely. Said that about 3 times already, but it's in my notes, so I'm repeating it. The story suffers without extra time with the characters, still. Or not still, but what I mean by that is that the first time you play this game and you do a whole bunch of extra stuff on your way, whether or not you decide to, but there's at least some extra stuff that you want to do. Those little added cutscenes of like being at the campsite and all that really add to the characterization of the game and make the first half of the game stronger. Without those scenes, the first half of the game is kind of not nearly as good as it was the first time I played through the game. And then they also added in those Kingsglaive cutscenes. So the first half of the game for a second playthrough feels way worse. Although a part of me thinks that if you're playing this for the first time and taking your time and leveling up and all that and getting all those campsite scenes, which are just character building scenes, that maybe it won't be as bad as I think it is. But those added scenes really, really hurt the first half of the game. So the first half, I think, is weaker this time around, both as a second-time player and if you were playing this through for the first time. I think the first half of the game suffers a good amount from what they did with the shit that they did with the updates. But that the second half is a lot stronger, which I didn't even think it needed to get that much stronger. I thought the second half of the game was some of the best Final Fantasy stuff we've had, and they just added more, and it's really great. It's more Ardyn stuff. I think that's why it's like meaty, like it's meatier after the Leviathan scene onward. You kind of like, once you get that like the dog cutscene after her death and everything like that, suddenly the game goes and just shoots forward and becomes really great. And it's still that way. In fact, probably about 10-15% better, I think, this time around, to me. I loved the DLC additions that kind of tied them in. If you're getting this game nowadays, you're buying this game brand new, you are going to have those DLCs. So you probably would play them if you're a Final Fantasy player going through this for the first time. But I kind of hated the additions to the things that I think were already kind of working or were enough to leave alone. Like, I thought they could have left the Ravis stuff alone and not fucked with it, and then fucking with it made it worse. So in the end, I feel it's about the same, but if I could have an optimal version of the game, it would be like, let's have the first half of the game be exactly what we had before. Let's have the second half of the game be this. That would be my optimal Final Fantasy 15. It doesn't exist, though. Unless, of course, you play the first half of the game without updating, and then right before you hit the Leviathan fight, update, and then keep playing.
Yeah, it's weird to be re-reviewing 15 after all these years, but I think you're probably about right. I mean, the updates, some of the changes were nice, but it's I don't know, the same problems that we had with it the first time we played it still exist. They didn't really fix any of the stuff that bothered me. I think you're right, and that was something I had thought about too while I was playing. When it comes to if I was playing this as the first time through, it probably wouldn't bother me as much, just because we are going to be doing all the extra shit. You're going to be leveling up. Like my guys were level 99 as I'm rolling through this game, so it's not really, I didn't really have to do all the extra stuff, the world building. So maybe some of that kind of like fills in the cracks like it did the first time we played the game, where we forgave a lot of the problems we had with it. And maybe this is just accentuating some of them. I don't think this is a bad version to play for the first time, honestly. I still, I guess, would recommend watching the movie, even though I think it's a piece of shit. And the anime and stuff like that, just as the
Honestly,
supplemental
the
material.
DLC stuff doesn't make any sense without it.
Yeah, that's what's hard.
The original game was fine without it.
Yeah, but the DLC borrows a lot from that movie, which is unfortunate because it's a really bad movie. But I don't know. So it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, where it fixes things that didn't really need to be fixed, and then just leaves the shitty parts alone, which is kind of disappointing.
I can imagine someone, because of those like shitty things they added, like with the cut like Kingslave shit and like bad dialogue that they added to like fill out the story more in the first half of the game. I can imagine someone putting down the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the tragedy right there, I think. It's like they added this shit. It's like Advent Children complete-esque shit in the beginning of the fucking thing that didn't need to be there, and now this is what we got. We do have 4 emails here. I'll go through them quickly. This is Jake Howland. It says, Episode Ignis. Did Ignis sacrifice seem too powerful to you? When I first played through 15, it was my assumption that Ignis' sacrifice was in order to save Noctis, Luna, or perhaps even the city itself from Ardyn's wrath. That didn't play out to be the case, though. It was fight Ardyn or join him. There is something to be said by the fact that Ignis fought Ardyn as not to join him in order to be knocked by Noctis' side, and that it was the sacrifice was for Noct. Either way, the actual game itself could have definitely done with some spliced in flashbacks of Ignis putting on the ring when Noctis initially inquires about the eyesight, similar to the Kingslave scene. Even though Noctis himself couldn't be aware of the reason, the audience would have benefited for it. Episode Ardyn, is this perhaps the most pure fun gameplay of any FF ever? Not of any FF ever, but it's pretty fun for the DLCs. It's definitely the best gameplay.
Yeah.
And as far as Ignis' sacrifice, I thought it was cool for like an extra DLC thing. I kind of don't really count it as part of the game because it's not part of the main story. But it does seem like he got a bit of a slap on the wrist, like you were saying before, Schweiss, where he puts on the ring of Lucius and all he does is lose his eyesight. That's it. Doesn't lose any limbs.
Yeah. They choose, I guess. It's their choice, but yeah, that was kind of dumb. I don't know. I kind of liked it as the mystery more. And that's kind of the theme of this review and of the DLC is it's cool, but we didn't really need it.
That's fair. So Ryan McPherson says, DLCs, most were meh. I like the story bits from episode Ardyn, but most of the time I was just going through the motions trying to get these over with. Royal Edition changes. Somehow they made the last chapter worse, ? I could have done without the 4 additional bosses with mechanics. Oh, so this guy disagrees. Okay. With mechanics for the bros that I've never used before because I hadn't played the DLCs yet. I do recommend playing the DLCs in order as each character leaves the story for a second.
Yeah.
These aren't optional. This is story content added to the way to the throne room, but at least they added a bunch of fetch quests for the hunters. I'll be the talk of the town with these post-apocalyptic photos. The extra cutscene with Luna is stupid. The retconned in an impenetrable wall around the citadel so that they could shoehorn ghosts like Luna back into the game. Overall, this is a
Yeah.
C game at best. I thought that was fine, honestly. This is a C game at best. Combat still blows. Noctis gets stabby, stab, phase, and warp strike, plus the total jank magic system. Do we even count? It's just magic grenades. It's not a magic system.
Yeah.
And
It's magic
eventually,
nukes.
a ring that finally makes combat fun by eliminating fighting almost entirely. Wow. Combat feels too loose, almost random. The camera's constantly moving around, and everyone one-shots you. You lose max health after every hit. The royal arms are worthless, and it's practically impossible to selectively target body parts on larger enemies. Now, I was rushing the story and was super under-leveled, but I feel, yeah, that's why you're getting one-shot. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I feel like if you're going to have action-oriented combat, then you should be able to get around these things. I feel like FF7 Remake, I got good enough with the combat to play it on a low level. All right, thank you,
Yep.
Rhinal McPherson, and 20 of your other names that you've gone through over the years.
Yeah. I'll hit Felicia's up.
Okay.
Felicia Nomiko. I love FF15. Much like Joe, I love the character-driven nature of the story and the consistent theme of friendship that made the game resonate so strongly with me. I know other people disliked it, but it's okay for people to be wrong on occasion. I played the game when it first came out and then didn't restart it. I just faffed around the world through Umbra when the need to visit struck me. Your re-review of the game was a great excuse for a replay. I did a game plus because I didn't want to do the grind fest again, and my focus was on the plot. And I can't say I was impressed with the story additions. It seems a lot of lore and political crap was added to try and explain that part of the plot, which I didn't think was needed. I never had trouble understanding Noctis's motivations, nor the reactions of the boy band to stuff. I liked the more simplistic explanations of the original. It gave you just enough information to get the gist, and is about all I would expect Noct to even bother with. I feel the additional info just muddied the storyline and weakened the power of the character's focus. It wasted time on minutia for the player while robbing the core relationship narrative of its momentum. I was a little sad how easy Chapter 13 was this go around, and I know people have said it's the power of the ring, but I was also way higher level this go, so it was a cakewalk. I really liked the change in tone and gameplay. It's a sequence where all his relationships, all his strengths are stripped from him, and the world is a much darker place without those relationships.
She's saying in the original.
Yeah.
Right.
It strengthened the game's theme beautifully, and it was way too easy this time, which sucks from people coming to the game late. That being said, I still enjoyed my time with the boys. I was even more pissed with Gladio after the Leviathan fight this time. Having played the DLCs at this point, I felt more strongly about Ignis's blindness and wanted to bash Gladio's face in because I knew what he had done. And Gladio's insinuating that I didn't care really pissed me off, which is a sign that the game did its job well. Speaking of the DLC, I enjoyed all the episode, Ignis being my fave. They gave us time alone with each companion to see them as individuals and to see what they bring with them to the group. I'm okay with them being DLC, as I can't say they would have added much if I played them during the main game, but maybe they would have. Hard to know looking in hindsight. Overall, I don't like most of the changes, and I felt the watering down of the emotional focus of the story impacted the weight of the ending to me. Still cried, but not as hard. It rips off 10's ending, by the way, now. The game is still flawed, the side quests are still ass, and the combat should have been more like 7 Remake, which I mentioned when this game first came out, but I can't lower the ranking. It's still one of the most streamlined and easily understood stories of the series. It still ranks second after 7.
I think the emotional core is easy to understand. It is the lore that they were clearing up with all like the fucking in the middle exposition cutscene, which I still fucking hate, even though that is in the second half of the game, but that is one of those horrible things they did. Overall, I largely agree with Felicia on her thoughts about the story changes. Okay, Stephen Westerfer is our last email here. What was your favorite real moment of the game? The ending. Love the ending still. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's still great.
Throughout the game, we get some legit moments of the cast of the game, whether it's the final camp scene or the scene with Prompto and Ignis in the hotel. Favorite mini game of the game, and episode Ardyn. It was pretty fun combat-wise, even though you had to hear the rap song.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think Ardyn's the best one.
Favorite optional weapon. I didn't pay attention. I just put whatever was the heaviest hitter on my guy.
Yeah, I didn't really do that this time around.
One that's not one of the legendary weapons. I don't even think the legendary weapon was the heaviest hitter that I had. If I had any legendary weapons, I honestly can't remember. I didn't pay attention. Sorry, man.
Yeah, I guess I used the one of the like arms of the father or whatever, and it made it so that my buddy's like limit gauge never rose, but mine rose extra fast, and they gave me this fancier armiger attack. That was probably my favorite thing.
Okay. And the last question is, this is Amerline 1. Wow, we haven't heard from you in a long time.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the romance of this game? Did it make sense? I think it was better this time around. It's still lacking quite a bit, but it was better this time around.
I think what I said in the original review, which was from my old roommate, that basically it's not really so much a romance as it is they're like childhood friends.
And
they didn't really have
betrothed.
time to. Yeah, they didn't really have time to build a romance, so I don't really think there is a romance.
But the connection is stronger in this one. They added a couple scenes, and the scenes that were old that were still in there felt a little stronger this time around. But it might be because I played it before.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it is a little bit stronger, but I don't think it's particularly a romance that is worthy of much note.
Nah,
it never has been. So
halfway through.
Yeah, get rid of her.
Get to the real romance, which is between the four breasts.
That's right. Yeah, no woman can come between that.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to another episode of Ultimate Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy podcast. Next time, we are reviewing Final Fantasy 15 Dawn of the Future, written by Jun Aishima with the Final Fantasy 15 development team. I am reading this out loud on Twitch, so if you want to go onto Twitch and watch the old videos, you can. I believe I will keep those videos as Patreon exclusives once Twitch kind of gives it up after its like 2-month period or whatever it does.
Right.
But it's a copyrighted book, so I don't really want that like my free audiobook out there for everybody to listen to. Hopefully one day Square Enix puts out their own. But yeah, you can watch me reading it on Twitch on occasion. So make sure you go to twitch.tv/Ultimate Final Fantasy. Put your notifications on. And guys, Schweiss is right about now about to do the final episode of What's the name of the podcast?
It's For a Few Chickens More, a song of Schweiss and Johnson, a Game of Thrones podcast.
That's right.
That's the
novel
brief title
that you have to put in to the search bar to look for it. But they are doing the final episode, so he's got to get to that. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Joseph Igolier.
At UFF Podcast.
And are we gonna have Nude Clan this month?
We sure. Well, I mean, February. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll be having an episode of that coming out in a few days. So Stay tuned for that. Lots of changes there, but we're gonna have a good time. Check out our past shows. Getting Fat, Caleb Joe, Super Sexy Swinging Fan Fiction, Puff Puff Hour, Godzilla Podcast, all of it.
Yeah, and all the updated links, our websites, our forums, all that shit is down below. We've updated all of our information. So please check that out in whatever podcatcher you're using. Sorry, I am hiccuping like crazy right now. Let's get this over with. Guys, we'll see you next time.